So I will try in the following 15 to 20 minutes to present you the Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina, what we call Islamska zajednica u Bosni I Hercegovini. Really a very unique organization that cares for the needs of the Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but as well in the region and in our diaspora. The Islamic community is an umbrella organization that has a huge administration, but as well lots of responsibilities and tasks, and was established in 1882 precisely. This means in the late 19th century. This was during a very intense period of a civilizational shift in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because since 1878 until 1918, these brief 40 but very intense years was after more than 400 years of belonging to the Ottoman Empire. Bosnia and Herzegovina started to be administered and later annexed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. This meant a radical shift in terms of orientation, in terms of education, in terms of organizing religious affairs in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but as well, and when I'm talking about a reorientation, the idea of Austro-Hungary was to reorient the Bosnian Muslims towards Central Europe, or the Central European context, to distance them from Istanbul, from the Sultan, from the Sheikh al-Islam, from the East in general. And one of the measures, among others, among many others, was, for example, as well to establish this Faculty of Islamic Studies where we're here today. This faculty as well was established during that period to educate future theologians, future scholars here in Sarajevo, in Europe, within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So the initial idea was to educate here Islamic theology, to interpret Islam, to teach Islam here, to care for the needs and the religious life of Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The way how it is organized, so in technical terms, the administration in general, is that we have a semi-democratically elected spiritual leader. We call him Reisul Ulema, the head of scholars. Very often in English he is translated as the Grand Mufti. We have a legislative body, where we have as well civilians sitting who are representing, so it's not the theologians, not the imams, not the clerics, to put it this way. We have an executive and judicative. And all of the leading positions, and this perhaps in marking difference towards other religious communities or churches, there are mandates. There are no lifelong tenures. And even the Grand Mufti is, so to say, elected by the members and the adherents and the theologians of the Islamic community. So it represents, the Islamic community represents and cares for the needs of the Muslims in and from Bosnia and Herzegovina, but as well today Serbia, neighboring Croatia, Slovenia, and our diaspora. When we're talking about the diaspora, we're talking about, particularly about our communities in Central Europe, in Austria, Germany, Scandinavian countries, but as well in North America, Canada, and even in Australia. We have around 300 Bosnian communities, Bosnian mosques. We call them very often Islamic centers of Bosniaks in these countries. And all of those imams who are working there, as well charitable organizations or charity that are happening in these communities, are, so to say, under the auspices, under the control or management of the headquarters here in Sarajevo. An important marker is as well that it cultivates what we call the Bosniac Islamic tradition. What do we mean by this? This is a term that has been coined to describe the way how Bosnian Muslims, how Bosniaks have the last 500 years approximately taught Islam, lived Islam, practiced Islam, and interpreted Islam. And so this is the way how the way how Bosnian Muslims are practicing and living Islam here in Bosnia and Herzegovina and in the region. The Islamic community is independent from the state and independent from any other organization in terms of finance, in terms of structure, in terms of activities, in terms of theology. Its income or its finances come from membership fees, from foundations, from donations, from the organization of Hajj and Umrah, from the organization of Qurban, and it works as well, and this is as well interesting perhaps in comparison to other dominantly Muslim societies, it works on the basis of a secular state. Bosnian Muslims have learned more than 100 years to live in a secular setting, in a secular state. So this is not a thing that has been questioned. And interestingly enough as well, that they have learned to live as a minority in different political systems, where Muslims, as a part of the society here, had as well go through and had to adapt to different legal statuses. The Islamic community here in Bosnia and Herzegovina controls around 1,200 mosques in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and as I mentioned, around 300 mosques or Islamic centers, communities in the diaspora. There is a statute which lays down the basis of the activities of the Islamic communities, and the basis is the Quran, the Sunnah, what I mentioned and tried to explain to you, the Islamic tradition of Bosniaks. And as it says in the statute, the challenges of time. This means to respond to the current challenges that Muslims in Bosnia and abroad are facing. This is in terms of administration. When it comes to its tasks on a regular basis, so it educates imams, religious teachers, theologians, and appoints them. This means as well that this Faculty of Islamic Studies has been established and is partially managed by the Islamic community in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have as well 6 Islamic high schools. We call them madrasas. But these are regular high schools, like any other high school, any other public high school. However, there are around 30% additional religious classes. And for example, there the teachers, and this is even if we're living here in a secular state, but we have developed Bosnia and Herzegovina, as you know, I guess, there are different models how to run a secular state, different models of what a secular state is. So in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have this model of separation, religion and state, but with elements of cooperation. And one of these elements of cooperation is that, for example, religious teachers at public schools, we have religious classes, public schools, but as well teachers at these Islamic high schools are paid by the state. We have as well, in terms of not only this Faculty of Islamic Studies, here in Sarajevo, there are 2 more Islamic pedagogical faculties in Zenica and in Bihać, which are educating and training religious teachers. So there's a combination at these faculties, combination of religious and secular, modern and traditional Islamic education. The Islamic community is well responsible for religious education in mosques and schools. It issues legal documents, fatawas. It organizes as well the pilgrimage, Hajj, and religious holidays and the Qurban. It collects the obligatory charitable fees, and we will talk about what with these fees, what projects are realized on the ground. And it distributes these fees among the needy. So there is, from the perspective and from the activities, from the work and experience of the Islamic community, an acknowledgement of democracy. As I tried to explain, the Islamic community itself is structured and organized with democratic, with elements of democracy. The idea of plurality, the idea of rule of law, of tolerance, human rights is something that is an integral part of, so to say, of the understanding and of the work of the Islamic community. An important element as well in our activities is that the Islamic community is the founder and active member of the Interreligious Council in Bosnia and Herzegovina, which has been established after the war in 1997, together with the other traditional religious communities in Bosnia and Herzegovina, meaning the Orthodox Church, Catholic Church, and the Jewish communities. So there are 4 religious communities that are involved in the Interreligious Council, which are very important too for peace, security, and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Furthermore, the Islamic community affirms, so to say, the European identity of Bosnian Muslims and the EU integration, in political terms, the EU integration of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but not so much in terms of politics, but rather that the Islamic community sees the EU integration of Bosnia and Herzegovina and the NATO integration as a safe way how to preserve peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And now to see where are the charitable activities of the Islamic community. So we have several offices that care for the needs. One is the Office for the Cooperation with Non-Governmental Organizations. And I'm happy to meet here as well representatives of organizations that when we cooperate with them for many years, with Nahla and with Pomozi.ba. We have the Office for Societal Care, which was established in 2014, so more than 10 years ago. And their projects are realized all over Bosnia and Herzegovina, but as well abroad in other countries. Now I will present to you just in a minute. And we have as well offices for marriage and family, as well with branches all over Bosnia and Herzegovina to address the current issues when it comes to family matters and women's issues, because we had as well several cases of femicide in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So the idea, and so to say to pursue with the projects that have been realized in the last decade and more within the Islamic community. So with this, so I will talk about projects which address this help to vulnerable population groups. So these offices that I mentioned to you, these different offices have cooperated with different non-governmental organizations, with different faith-based organizations, but as well with other, in some cases it is in embassies or other donors which showed willingness to support our project. So and most of these projects are financed with the help of the zakah, of the obligatory annual fee, and sadaqatul fitr. The target groups are, in general, the needy population. We cooperate with relevant and related associations to support these associations in their charitable projects. Such, for example, we have associations that care for the needs of women who have been victims of war crime during the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We have associations, we support projects of people and support the work of associations that deal with people with disabilities. Another target group are migrants. You know that Bosnia in the last years has been as well a route for migrants coming from countries of Central Asia. Another target group are students to whom we provide scholarships, returnees. And when I talk about returnees, these are those who, during the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina, have been forced to migrate, to leave their homes. This is usually what we today call Republika Srpska, this part of Bosnia and Herzegovina, usually the northern eastern part of Bosnia and Herzegovina, that has unfortunately successfully been ethnically cleansed, and where we have as well Srebrenica in the eastern part of Bosnia, where genocide has been committed. And those who decided to return to their places of origin, to return to their places where they were forced to flee. There are several projects that we support these people to start again their lives in these parts of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Another target group are as well elder and sick people, families of imams who were killed during the war, and in general help for imams who are retired and who need medical assistance. So concretely, this these target groups, this results in the following projects in and outside of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So, for example, in 2014, we had a huge flood here in Bosnia, and about 1.5 million euros were given to recover from the flood. We have a program for prevention of drug addiction, a cooperation that we cooperate with imams and religious teachers. We have we had several organizations of seminars to discuss, for example, the issues of rights of people with disabilities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We expanded the network of coordinators for societal care in all regions of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And for example, here in Sarajevo, the soup kitchen, the Gazi Husrev-based soup kitchen was re-established, and there are approximately 50 meals per day. There is continuous help for elderly and sick people. Around 200 scholarships for students are given every year. Then, since in Bosnia and Herzegovina, an integral characteristic of our society is substantial agriculture. This means that the people are dealing with agriculture to survive, and this is why, particularly for the returnees, but in general as well, we have provided greenhouses, agricultural machines, but as well cattle for the people to have, so that they can survive and live their lives in their places of origin. In general, we do provide support in times of crisis, and I mean with this flood, fire, earthquakes. Even during the pandemic, there had been an intense humanitarian aid for Syrian refugees in Turkey. This was medical help and to help them to continue their education in schools there. It was as well help for earthquakes in Albania, Pakistan, and in Croatia. We have continuously, we have partnerships with local and international humanitarian organizations such as Merhamet, such as Emmaus, Pomozi Ba here, and 2 more minutes, okay. And we distribute kurban meat to migrants here, together with partner organizations, helping imams in pensions, medical help, for example, particularly for women who went back home to in distant parts, not in urban but rural areas. We provided even medical help for those people who usually don't even have medical insurance, organizing iftars, Ramadan packages, Eid gift packages, food aid packages. As well, and this is important, this branch that we really care as well for those women who were victims of war crimes, who were raped during the last war. So yearly there are about 3,500 applications at the Islamic community to seek for help, which we respond, and we try to respond in an adequate way. And I would like just to finish, as my time is over, with a quote from Ina Merjanova, who was as well a guest here at the Faculty of Islamic Studies, who said for the Islamic community here in Bosnia and Herzegovina that it plays a key role for a positive image of Islam in the Balkans as a model for Muslims in Europe. Thank you very much for your attention.